Today I'm going to take you through my notes on Dr. Andrew Huberman's podcast on willpower and tenacity, namely how to increase your willpower and tenacity. So without further ado, let's get right into it. When we are well rested, our ability to engage in things that we normally can't resist, or to resist things that we normally engage in, is much, much higher. When we're not well rested, our tenacity is massively diminished. So sleep well, okay? When we're sleep deprived, in physical pain, emotional pain, and when distracted, our tenacity and willpower will also be diminished. So for example, say you haven't slept well the night before and you're physically in a lot of pain, okay? You're going for a 10K run. You're at 8 kilometers and you're huffing and puffing and really, really struggling. You're far more likely to resist that pain, that suffering, having been well slept than not being well slept. You're far more likely to complete that 10K on a good night's sleep, because that part of the brain has the willpower and encourages you to just get through it, just be tenacious and just get on through it, will be much greater than if you hadn't slept well. So sleep well. Willpower is a limited resource that can be replenished with glucose in the brain. So glucose is super important. So for those of you that fast, for example, fasting has its pros and cons, absolutely. At some point, your brain needs glucose at some point, especially if you're doing a deep work task, because all you're doing is inhibiting the amount of willpower and tenacity that you can have, because you're starving your brain of what is required to create willpower and tenacity, namely glucose, okay? So consume glucose. One thing you can do if you want to be on that fast as well, that Huberman talks about, is you can sip on a glucose drink. There are plenty out there. I don't need to tell you what, there's so much evidence out there. One drink in particular that I'm not sponsored or anything affiliated with, that I've noticed, that I haven't actually tried myself, but I've seen a lot of people talking about lately, is Huel. I don't know if you've heard of it, Huel. Just look it up. I think it's got 20 grams of protein. It's got all your vitamins and minerals. It seems to be quite a good one. So if you want to fast and you don't want to eat anything until sort of 11, maybe midday, then I recommend Huel, because I think I'd imagine it has plenty of glucose in as well, which will help you with your willpower and tenacity to get on with the work that you have to do. Willpower and tenacity is also slightly psychosomatic. I think that's the right term. It's slightly to do with your power of belief as well. So if you believe that you have willpower and tenacity, or if you believe that it's a limited resource, for example, then you'll have much more difficulty accessing that willpower and tenacity that you have with each work task, and there'll be less willpower and tenacity to draw upon in the first place. So essentially, convince yourself that it's not a limited resource, that it's infinite and it's there, and you've just got to access it by doing things such as sipping on glucose and sleeping well. Testosterone makes effort feel good. Aerobic exercise increases brain volume in aging humans. 3 one-hour episodes of cardiovascular training per week at a moderately high intensity will increase willpower only if you're doing, for example, 1 hour per week. You have to build the difficult habits in. So things such as running, cardiovascular exercise, like proper cardiovascular exercise, I'm not talking about weight training, is typically one of the most difficult things that humans do. Is typically what most humans dislike doing. That's why Huberman said in his data, it massively improves your willpower and tenacity. So just include those difficult habits into your daily routine, that discomfort, and it's as simple as that. Your willpower and tenacity will rise, along with your testosterone, which, as I said before, makes effort feel good. Doing hard things that you don't currently do, what Huberman calls micro sucks, or progressively overloading on difficult things, increases your willpower and tenacity. For example, say you're working out in the gym and you do some tricep pull downs, okay, such as this. You can do another superset. You can do them and then you can immediately hit the pull-up bar and do 5 pull-ups. Or you can immediately do 100 push-ups, whatever it may be. 100 is okay, a bit extreme, but maybe 25, 30 push-ups. So what you're doing is you're just adding microsucks. You're just adding small little bits of discomfort to your exercise routine. Say you normally go for a 10K run. As soon as you finish that 10K run, hit push-up straight away. So it's sort of like supersets. So it's sort of like adding one more thing onto your current workout, your current program. That will massively increase your willpower and tenacity Or to bring it to the classroom, for example, if you finish a language lesson, spend 5 minutes just sitting, being introspective, thinking about what you learned, just to help you memorize. Don't look at your phone, don't look at anything else. It's just sitting still after you've spent 45 minutes, an hour in a lesson is not something you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go on your phone. You're going to want to do something else. Have a break, watch something because you've just been studying. So just that 5 little extra minutes of just sitting still, just maybe shutting your eyes, maybe meditating on what you've just learned, which in actual fact, there is evidence that Huberman speaks about helps with recall and memory, retention. Doing that will also increase your willpower and tenacity. Pick circumstances when the degree of resistance is very high and impulse to do something else other than the thing that you know you need to do is very high, and start applying those on a regular basis. The more resistance, the more activation of a part of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is the part of the brain region that's responsible for generating, I don't know if it's at the front or the back, Huberman talks about that, but that's not relevant. It's the part of the brain responsible for generating tenacity and willpower. So I'll say that again, the more resistance and the more difficult things, the more microsucks you can add into your daily routine, into your daily tasks and habits, the more activation, the more you'll activate the part of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is responsible for generating tenacity and willpower. For example, waiting a few extra minutes before you eat when you're really, really hungry. Okay, say you've been doing your fast until 11, you really want to eat. Just waiting those few extra minutes really helps activate the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, okay? It helps activate the circuitry of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, and so can really help increase willpower and tenacity. Huberman himself said it doesn't require understanding of neuroscience to get it. It's quite simple. You want to do something, you resist doing it. You don't want to do something, you do it. Both of those things will increase your willpower and tenacity. So that whole podcast can be summarized into those 2 key sentences. It's about deliberate engagement in behaviors that you specifically do not want to do, or suppressing those cravings, those desires, those things that you do want to do in the moment, that you know you shouldn't be doing, that you shouldn't do. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex, therefore, is the resistance hub. It's the thing that allocates resources to do the thing that you don't want to do or that someone's trying to prevent you from doing. One of the major benefits of having high willpower is, wait for it, high stress tolerance. The higher your willpower, the more stress you'll be able to take on board and deal with. So having high willpower and tenacity is absolutely essential and will really, really benefit you in your life. Now, something interesting, just to finish the video, some of you may want to know the difference between willpower and discipline, which Huberman doesn't actually cover. So I'm going to read something from you, because I looked this up and found someone on LinkedIn, believe it or not, called David Bailey, who is a developer of a highly successful performance team. So all credit to David Bailey if you want to look him up on LinkedIn. And I'm quoting directly from him now, who gives a very good distinction between the two. He says, "My goal this year is to follow the maxim of tenacity. While discipline is a trait that is something we have to do, tenacity is a quality of want or willingness. Tenacity is defined as the quality or fact of being very determined. It is said that most people that make New Year's resolutions to lose weight tend to lapse back to their old habits by around about March, apparently, is what he says. I say that in 2016, live by the quality," so obviously he made this in 2016, so I say that in 2016, live by the quality of tenacity. Be tenacious enough to stick to your goal. If you need to make 2 to 3 calls a day to drive your business, then be tenacious enough to do it every single day. Having a willingness to drive yourself to achieve even in the face of adversity. The moment you fail or get off track, acknowledge the event that has happened and have the tenacity to pick yourself up and go at it again. Tenacity will pay off in the end. Tenacity will drive you to become disciplined to achieve your goals. The best part is, somewhere along the way, people that you interact with every day will see your tenacity and have a good chance of being tenacious as well. Tenacity is the quality of being an effective leader. I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.